Good morning, Emma. Good morning, Edison.
Good morning.
Emma, did you get my message about the test?
I was looking at trying to enter in the test, but it said like it was finished. Like I couldn't enter it.
Yeah.
So
you'll have to do the makeup one, okay?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that today.
Yeah, after class, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about it with everybody in class anyway, so.
Okay.
But if you want to talk about it after class, we can do that too.
Yeah, because I do need to do it. But how has your week been? Your weekend?
It's been okay.
Daily
I've been packing, and I was sick over the weekend, so I didn't do much really of anything, honestly.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So the reason why it was out on Friday was I think my mom gave you an email.
I didn't get anything.
My mom didn't give you an email?
Mm-mm.
Well, that makes no sense.
Well, tell her to shoot me one.
No, it was because, what's it called? My baby brother was born on that day, and I was watching, my sister the day before, and she had stayed up all night, and I was just drowsy and unable to focus and do anything.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to have them shoot me an email, or through Parent Link, or you have my email, that'll work for me.
Yeah, I gave her the email, but
I
guess
she's probably occupied.
I know, right? There's another one. I officially have 4 siblings.
Wow.
2 on my mom's side, 2 on my dad's.
Wow.
Yeah. There's so many of them. And they're all under the age of 4.
Oh, goodness. So
yeah.
You've got a lot of little ones running around you.
I have a lot of little ones. There's so many of them, in fact, that I don't, they always are, knocking on my door, and it's like, Emma! Emma!
Yeah.
Yes, it is just, it's cute, but after, the 100th time of knocking on my door, it gets a little, what's the word? Repetitive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. I've been playing this weird cat game. It's you have to get more, it's basically the equivalent of a crazy cat lady, but a game.
Oh, yeah?
So, you have to complete different levels to get more experience, and every time you get a new level, you get a new bunches of cats. So, let me show you. So I have, it's a bunch of cats.
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen that one before.
It's just a bunch of cats, and I just am obsessed with it.
Yeah, I used to play the one where you just, fed random cats and, putting out different food attracted different ones.
Yeah. But I think it's always scamming me because it keeps giving me materials, and I don't want materials, I want more cats.
Yeah.
But
I don't need this stuff. I need kitties.
Yeah. But they're okay. It's a fun game. There's a few ads, but the ads are okay.
Yeah.
At least they're interactable.
My cat, Hendrik, is always on the windowsill, the window seat that I have for him next to me while I teach. And so he's going to be really mad next week when I have to start going to the campus because I won't be here to pet him all day.
Yeah. But he's like, I've been loving this quarantine.
Oh,
My
yeah.
owner's here with me.
Yeah.
But then he's going to be like, where did you go?
here's the window.
Oh, it's so cute.
There's Henrik.
Okay. From my perspective, at least, he looks really big.
He's huge. He's a huge cat. Yeah, he's real big. I'm 5'6", and if he like reaches up, like he wants me to pick him up, his paws like touch my hip. Yeah, he's very large. Oh, there it is. Good morning. Who just joined us? Mildred, I think.
Okay, now my internet's working.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Hi, Mildred.
Hi.
But yeah, maybe I can go get the.
I wonder where everybody is today. There's Data. Oh. You there, Emma? Ah, there you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just my internet's been hating me recently. First it's my computer, and then it's the internet.
I think that a lot of it is there's a lot more people who are on right now because everybody's working from home. So if you have shared bandwidth, then it's causing some issues for people. That's what I suspect is part of the problem. Yeah, exactly, Tyler. Like if you've got multiple people in the house, there's a lot of, feed, like just people in general who are on the line, and it's slowing everybody's connections down. So we just got to do the best that we can with what we got.
You want to see something cool that I was working on yesterday?
Sure.
I'm working on these weird eyeball drawings.
Oh, wow. These are very avant-garde. That's cool.
Yeah.
It looks like stuff that I would sketch. They say that as you're listening, when you're like taking notes, if you're not taking notes, that like doodling or something actually helps you remember things better. So
yeah, like with me at least, is I need to be drawing or doing something writing wise in order for me to remember it. Like
yeah,
like I do like really like if I don't do something, then I don't do well. Like one time I was just drawing, and then like we had a test, I got an okay grade on it, and like it was just like I'm really good at just remembering things if my brain is already active.
Yeah. I always tell people as they're like taking notes that even like doodling in the margins and stuff, that it actually does like help you. Or like when you're trying to think of an answer on a test, like start doodling.
And I had a lot of teachers yell at me because of my doodling. Like, I think a few of my elementary teachers were like, Emma, I need you to stop doodling. Well, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt. I was writing all over the paper and doodling all over it and making little sketch. Sometimes it got way too big.
Well, sometimes I don't think, not everybody reads the same science either, like I'm a big believer in doodling to wake up your brain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're getting people in still, trying to get Luis in. I've clicked admit on him like a million times. Poor Luis, he's stuck. Okay, so we'll get started. Hopefully we'll pick up a few things because we do have a do now for today. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So remember to keep working. Let's open our journals, whatever document you're using for your journal. Or if you're doing it by hand, just remember you will have to submit these. But like I said, if you want to take pictures of it, that's fine with me. So I'm going to get us started on that, and then we'll see if we can get a few more people in here. But I'll give you a couple of minutes. So if you want to go ahead, turn on your cameras if you can. If I sound like turn on your cameras, and then so I can see you, so I know you're here. And then if I start sounding like a robot, you can turn off your camera. But it helps for me to at least know that you are present. And I have seen you, and I know that you are indeed here with us today. Okay, so here's your do now, all right? In your journals, write down the elements of plot that you can remember, right? So starting with stasis, just to give you a hint. And then go ahead and look at your journal, your notes, and add the elements that you weren't able to remember on your own, okay? So start by trying to remember them on your own, and then refer to your notes for what you need, what you can't remember, to fill in the gaps, all right? So I'm gonna start the time. You got 2 minutes to give this a start now. You got about 1 minute left. Remember, you can always finish these later. I just like to give you a little bit of time to get started on it. All right, that was 2 minutes. So really quickly, let's run through this together. So I already gave you the stasis, right? The world of the play. So what happens to break the stasis? Somebody tell me. What breaks the stasis? What's it called? Type it in the chat or come off mute. Go ahead, Sinette.
Oh, initiating event.
Yes, good. Okay, the initiating event, right? So we have stasis, Vang. Initiating an event, which leads us to what? What starts happening? The Giselle, rising action. Yes. All right. Rising action happens right about the halfway point. We get to what? Tyler, excellent. Good. The crisis, right? Which is our no turning back point. So once Justin had that bag of weed in his hand, right? He can't go back to not buying drugs, right? It's been bought. All right. Then that continues to the high. Yes, good. The major climax. Excellent. Then we have the what? Falling action, which leads to the new stasis. Yeah. All right. Okay. Good. Good job, guys. All right. So when I ask for the elements of plot on the quiz, some of you lost points because what it said was the elements of plot and a brief description of each. So there were several people who filled in the elements of plot, or as many as they could remember, but didn't give any kind of description. All right. So let's talk about the quiz real quick. If you got below an 80% on the quiz, you can retake it if you would like. If you did not take the quiz, you need to do them. Okay, Carla, turn off your video and let's see if that helps. Okay, if you did not take the quiz, then you need to do the makeup. All right, okay. So they are the makeup is live now. I would suggest that you spend a little time going over your notes before you take the quiz again. And also remember that from 3 to 4 on every day but Wednesday, I have my office hour. So if you want to come to my office hour, even just to be in my office hour when you take the test. So if you have any questions, you can talk to me, okay? That might be a good idea, right? So if you decide to retake the test, that's cool. You're good to go. But just remember that there is like a punitive thing for not even having done it the first time, okay? If you didn't have an excuse. All right? So I sent an email to your parents about it. They might be talking to you about it. You need to take the makeup test. Tyler, if you didn't take the test the first time, I will go over the thing for you. We can take a look at it right after class. Okay, Tyler? And we'll see what your grade was because I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, questions about that otherwise? No? Okay, all right. So for today, we're going to talk about ancient Greek theater, where I'm going to introduce you to the 3 VIPs of ancient Greek playwrights who are named Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Alyssa, what are you talking about? Your grade or the test? Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. We're going to watch a Crash Course Theater number 2. And then we have a creative project where you will create a character mask. So that'll be fun. The makeup test, for those of you looking for it, is in the same folder as the original test. So it should be in 9/11, September 11th. Okay. Do not take it now during class. Do not do that because then you're just going to be behind on what we're talking about today. All right. So as far as we know, ancient Greek theater started with or related to the god Dionysus. And Dionysus was the god of wine. He was the god of revelry. And later he'll become the god of theater. Okay.
So what did they do? Well, during the harvest, so they're harvesting the grapes, which they're going to use to make wine, right? They have this event called the Dithyramb. And the Dithyramb was an epic poem that they would create impromptu. So what does it mean if we're improvising something? What does that mean? Yeah, Zanette, go ahead.
You're making it up as you go.
Yeah, and Mildred too. Good, excellent. Yeah, you're making it up as you go along, right? So they would kind of have like a theme, but they were making it up on the spot, right? Sort of like playing off of each other. Now later, these would actually be written down, but the first ones were just all made up on the spot, okay? So this was a group of 50 men who would sing and dance this thing, sort of parade through the town and get to the town square and do this big like celebration of Dionysus. Eventually what happens is a person whose name was Thespis steps out of the chorus and became a character. So what is the difference between third and first person? Let's hear from somebody we haven't heard from yet. Who knows? Third person, what does that mean? Something that's a third person point of view. Madeline, yes, perfect. He, she, exactly. Okay, good. Right, and then Jada says, first person is I, me, and Giselle says that first gives more insight to the character. Good, yes, excellent. You guys are really on top of this. Okay, right. So third person is he, she, they, right? So he, the King Oedipus, King Oedipus walked up the steps to the palace, right? We're narrating what somebody else is doing. Whereas first person would be somebody saying like, I am King Oedipus, and then they actually walk up the steps to the palace, right? So he becomes the character. We move from just third person talking about characters to somebody actually embodying the character. Make sense, right? So Thespis is actually why actors are also sometimes called thespians. You may have heard this before, right? Yep, that's why. That's where it's from. So supposedly that was his name. He steps out of the chorus and he becomes the first actor. And so we pay homage to him by calling ourselves thespians. Any questions about that? No? Okay. All right. I can't tell if anybody's still writing notes, mostly because the majority of you don't have your cameras on. So I'm going to move on, but remember that this PowerPoint is up on Schoology as well. So eventually, the Dithyramb sort of transforms into tragedy. Over time, over sort of, what do you write about thespians? It's just why actors are also called thespians because of Thespis. Does that make sense? Here, I'll go back one slide. Yeah, okay, perfect, great. Okay, so tragedy then becomes in Athens the most important form of drama. And while we know that 900 tragedies were produced during the 5th century BCE, we only have 31 in their entirety. There's a couple that we have that are mostly finished, okay? And all of those 31 are from 3 playwrights, our VIP playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. So this is just some supposition, all right? Meaning you're guessing, taking an educated guess. What do you think happened to the other plays? All 860 something of them. Yeah, Emma, give it a shot. What do you think happened?
Okay, so usually the reason why most things from a certain time period get lost or gone are because, like, either one, they weren't able to stand the test of time and being able to, like, with surrounding.
Oh, she froze. The first one's good. Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. Yeah. Poor Emma. Her internet is just gone. We've got invasion.
They just are gone.
Yeah. Emma says they couldn't withstand the test of time, which is true. Tyler says they were lost. Okay. So they were destroyed, right? By people invading, mostly Rome, right? They were lost. They couldn't withstand the test of time. They were written on papyrus, right? Which disintegrates. So some of them just crumbled away, right? So what do you think that tells us about the 31 plays that we do have? Again, this is just an educated guess. Yes, Victor, they were protected or they were rescued. They were considered important, right? Somebody went out of their way to preserve some of these plays, right? Same thing with the poetics, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But somebody went out of their way to make sure that these things were protected. Now, see, the thing is that what Rome, right? So if you know anything about how Rome sort of went around, they would go through, right? They went through all of Europe. They go down into Africa, over to Egypt, right? They would pretty much go into an area and look at, you know, the culture of a place and anything that they really liked, like sculpture, poetry, theater, they would have a Roman artist recreate that, basically make a copy of it, then put a Roman name on it and destroy the original so that they could take sort of ownership of these things. Make it look like Rome had come up with all of these inventions and all of these forms of art, right? So they were basically like the world's first and greatest plagiarists, you know? So yeah, a lot of these plays were destroyed. A lot of them just crumbled away. And the few that we have left were intentionally preserved or rescued by people. Good, excellent, good job. Okay, so our first VIP is Aeschylus, all right? And here's a marble carving of maybe what Aeschylus looked like, right? So Aeschylus begins writing at a time when we have our 50 chorus members. And the first big change, he's young. He doesn't look super old, yeah. I mean, nobody really lived to like an old age, of course, right? But yeah, and I think too, like if you're gonna do a model marble carving of someone, you're probably gonna try to make them look good, right? So here's Aeschylus. He's writing a chorus of 50 people. The biggest thing that he does is that he adds a second actor. So remember I said before we had Thespis all on his own, right? Well, Aeschylus adds a second actor, and this makes it possible for us to have true dramatic exchange. Real dialogue for the first time where we have two people, two actors in character, and the characters are talking to each other for the first time. Right? So instead of like one actor who only gets to speak to the chorus or who's speaking directly to the audience, we have two that can actually talk to one another. So essentially what would happen is that the actors would just put on different masks to play different people, right? So I put on this mask, I'm the king. I put on this mask, I'm a shepherd, and vice versa, right? So they could play all of the characters by switching masks. So yeah, true dramatic exchange for the first time. Pretty important, especially because theater, what makes theater unique as a literary form, I think we mentioned this before, but dialogue, right? That's really important because theater is told through dialogue. Any questions about Aeschylus?
Was he, like, I don't know if you're going to talk about this eventually,
Sure.
but did he make plays for the rich and the famous, or did he make plays for the people?
Okay.
In this.
So during the golden, we will talk about this eventually a little bit, but that's fine to mention it now. During the golden age of theater, when most of these playwrights were writing, it was considered the civic duty of every member of Athens to go to the theater.
Okay.
So yeah, so everybody would go. So he is really writing for everyone.
Okay.
Good question. Yep. Good. All right. So then we've got Aeschylus. He's our VIP one. Now we have Sophocles, which you may have heard before because he was also a philosopher, right? Now, between when Aeschylus and Sophocles were writing, the chorus had gone from 50 people all the way down to 12. Sophocles is going to bump it back up a little bit to 15 people, and it's pretty much going to stay at 15 from then on. So we've got now 15 chorus members, and he also adds a third actor. Yeah, he doesn't look as friendly as Aeschylus does, right? So he adds a third actor. So now, essentially, most of the time in plays by Sophocles, with the three actors, you would have one actor who would just play the protagonist, and the other two actors would switch masks to play all the other characters, right? Okay. So the other thing, so that's very important, right? We've got three actors now. But the other really big thing about Sophocles is that he's going to pay a lot of attention and spend a lot of his time focusing on dramatic construction, the elements of plot. So what are the elements of plot? We've been talking about them.
New stasis.
Yeah, the stasis, initiating event. Yes, exactly. Good, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Perfect, right? So he's trying to really get rid of plot holes in his play. He really wants to make sure that like A leads to B, leads to C, right? He doesn't want to have anything extraneous. He wants it to just be a very clean, simple plot. He also was like trying to encourage other playwrights to sort of like write better stories, right? These playwrights would write these great stories and then they would get to the end and realize they couldn't like get themselves out of the situation they'd written themselves in. So they would have like a god come down and fix everything, the end, right? Sophocles hated that. So that was also his idea, was to encourage other playwrights to write like he did. When Aristotle comes into the picture quite a while later, he's going to say that Sophocles was basically the best playwright and that he wrote the most perfect tragedy, which was Oedipus Rex. So there's lots of different playwrights who wrote the story of Oedipus, but Aristotle says that Oedipus Rex by Sophocles was the most perfect tragedy. And we're actually going to sort of examine Oedipus Rex our next class. So you can weigh in on that a little bit yourselves. Any questions on Sophocles? No? All right. Okay. Last but not least is Euripides. Euripides was kind of the bad boy of ancient Greek tragedy. Why? Because he broke a lot of the rules. He wanted to sort of push the boundaries of what tragedy was, right? And so during the time that he lived, he wasn't quite as popular as the other playwrights that we've mentioned. He didn't win as many awards as Sophocles and Aeschylus did, right? And it was because he broke a lot of the rules. He mixed tragedy with elements of comedy. So it would be like, you know, a very heavy play, but maybe people would say something a little funny, or, you know, something funny would happen, kind of like it does, you know, in real life. He was very skeptical of the power that the gods had. And so he would write that into the plays. Like, you know, the characters would question the gods and question if, you know, their fate could really like never be rewritten. And he wrote sympathetic female characters and even sometimes allowed them to outwit the male characters. And that was not something that anybody had done before. So there were a lot of people who, with Euripides, were kind of like, ooh, I don't know. This is a little too much for me. This is a little too different. You know. So not as popular during the time. However, much more popular now. So if a theater is like, oh, we really want to do an ancient Greek play, a lot of the time they're going to look to the writings of Euripides, just because his characters are like so well like thought out. And those are our VIP playwrights right there. Those are the three. You've just met the most important people are three ancient Greek playwrights. Questions about Euripides? No?
Why did he use female characters like most of the time?
I think it was because of the fact that a lot of people hadn't told the stories from their perspective, right? And a lot of the mythology that people were writing about, the female characters were very passive. And so he wanted to mix it up. He wanted to write stories about women that hadn't really been explored before. So again, I think he was just like pushing the envelope. Victor, he said no to sexism. Yeah. I mean, his stuff is very interesting. So if you are interested in ancient Greek plays, look at the stuff that Euripides writes, because he really pushes the envelope in a lot of places. Oh, I'm sorry you're lagging. You might want to try, here, I'll type it in the chat just in case you can't hear me. Okay. So we got to talk about Aristotle if we talk about ancient Greek theater. And actually, while I was packing earlier, I found somewhere, here it is, my copy of Aristotle's Poetics that I've had since my undergrad. So I used this in my junior year, I think, of college. So this is the Poetics. This is a modern translation. There's tons of them. So he was not a playwright. So make sure you understand, not a playwright, a philosopher. He was a historian. He was looking back at when those three playwrights were alive. So he did not live at the same time that they did. And saying, like, this is what makes a perfect tragedy, okay? So it's really a reflection at, as to, like, this is what was great about this period of ancient Greek theater. So not a playwright. Make sure you understand. So he basically says, that, yeah, he's basically just like saying, like, ancient Greek tragedy used to be super great, and here's what made it great. That's basically what this little book is about. Well, a lot of this book is like the introduction, where they're like telling, like, this much of the book is the introduction where they're telling you, like, this is sort of what he's trying to say, and then this is actually the Poetics. So okay, so let me show you what Aristotle sort of breaks down tragedy into. So he's going to break it down into its most important to its least important parts. So here we are. So these are the elements of tragedy, according to Aristotle, from most important, which is plot, to least important, which is spectacle. So number one, plot. The sequence of events. Again, we've been talking about this, right? The stasis, initiating event, crisis, okay? So he says that's the most important thing. You have to have a great plot, and it has to be written well. And if it's not, then your play can't truly be great. Number two, character. The people in the play, not the actors, the characters that are written. Okay? So he says the characters have to be great. If you have a play with great characters and a mediocre plot, it can still be a pretty good play, but it can't be great, right? Because plot's the most important. Then we have thought or theme, which is the question. What are you supposed to be thinking about after the play is over, right? So we talked about that with 21 Chump Street. And we talked about, you know, it could be don't change yourself for somebody else, or don't get involved with drugs, or, you know, how the war on drugs works. Is it fair, right? There's different things that you can, that's one that you can really argue about, right? You and I can think that a play has a different theme, and we can both be correct if we argue it correctly. Next is diction. Now, diction means vocabulary to Aristotle. So he's talking about the way that the characters are written and what kinds of words they use and how they use them. Then we have music. And by that, he is talking about instrumental music, because they did play instrumental music in ancient Greek theater. But he's also talking about the way that you would arrange the voices of the chorus, right? Because they're singing. So just like a choir, you have like altos and tenors and sopranos, you know. So he's also talking about that. And then very, very last, we have spectacle, which are all the special effects. And for that, for Aristotle, he's talking about costumes. He's talking about any paintings or like any furniture. He basically says that it's nice to have that stuff, but you shouldn't have to have it in order for the play to be successful. So Aristotle wouldn't be a big fan of like the Fast and the Furious, right? Okay. Any questions on those? Now, I gave them to you in order of most important to least important. So I have a mnemonic device, actually a high school group of students came up with it a few years ago, and it stuck with me ever since to remember it. And it's people can think, dogs must stink. And then you can remember it from most important to least important, right? Or you can come up with any one that works for you, right? But I would suggest coming up with something like that just to help you out. Because if you get the first letter, you know, that can help spark that memory. Any questions about the elements of tragedy? Yes, Annette.
So the whole thing is the plot has to be good in order for your rest of the story to continue.
Basically he's saying the plot has to be great for the play to be great. The plot has to be well written, right? So no plot holes, you know, nothing where like, you know, all of a sudden like the storyline just goes away, right? You know, and we've all seen that, especially in like television where all of a sudden like it's just like, where did that character go, right? You know. Any other questions? Good question. Anybody else? Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to watch Crash Course Theater number 2. And I just want you to take any notes on anything that you hear that's new or interesting, okay? Or that you think you might want to research in the future. So again, if you're having trouble with the internet, might want to turn off your video for this one and then turn it back on after it's over. Because I don't want you to be lagging out. All right.
Hey there, I'm Mike Rignetta. This is Crash Course Theater, and today we're traveling to ancient Greece to uncover the origins of Western drama. Right, Dionysus? He's still hungover. My dude, this is your episode. You gotta get up. If we believe the ritualism theory from last episode, then eons of religious or quasi-religious rituals eventually birthed drama. But how? Well, it has to do a bunch with our grape-loving friend over here. By the 6th century BCE, Dionysus had become a very popular god in Greece, especially among the ladies. According to some maybe true, maybe not reports, women participated in a ritual where they'd run through the countryside, tear apart some animals, and then come home. It's fun, right? And if you want to know more about it, you can check out The Bacchae by Euripides. It is great. Whether or not that happened, we do have good evidence that in the 6th century BCE, some less wild rituals celebrating Dionysus spread through Greece. One of the most popular involved a procession from Eleutheria to Athens, where worshippers lofted a giant phallus and sang songs called dithyrambs in praise of you know who. And one theory about those dithyrambs actually is that eventually they evolved into theater, when singers started acting out the action instead of just singing it. Aristotle and his followers think that sooner or later a singer stepped out of the dithyramb chorus and started acting out individual characters. This actor was called Thespis. Like, actually, that was his name, and that's where we get the noun thespian. According to stories, Thespis learned to switch between characters, and to enhance the effect, he got the bright idea to use masks. This was Greek tragedy in its earliest form, one actor paired with a chorus. It still sounded a lot like a dithyramb or like a bard reciting portions of epics as banquet entertainment, but the direct impersonation of a song's characters made it different. And it continued to develop, adding actors and architectural elements for about 150 150 years. Tragedy, by the way, derives from the Greek words for goat and song, which may have had to do with animal sacrifices that were made during the festivals, or it may just be another reference to satyrs. Theater eventually gets institutionalized in Athens. Late in the 6th century BCE, pre-democracy Athens was ruled by a tyrant named Pisistratus. Pisistratus came to power through violence, but once he was in charge, he wanted to unite and strengthen the city. He decided that festivals, particularly those in praise of Dionysus, would be a good way to get everyone on board. Because wine? So, in the 530s BCE, he expanded one of the gods' pre-existing spring festivals and turned Athens into City Dionysia, with a theater competition at its center. Now, this festival wasn't only about theater, it was also about reaffirming Athens as a source of pride and power. It lasted 5 or 6 days and included a lot of events. Military and political leaders poured out libations. Tribute from cities of the Athenian Empire was displayed on stage. Names of men who greatly benefited Athens were read out. Children of soldiers who had died in war and had now reached maturity were brought on stage. There were also dithyramb contests. The theater competition took place in an outdoor amphitheater in front of a crowd of about 14,000 spectators. That likely included the whole range of Athenian society, even women and slaves. But, of course, only male citizens could perform in the chorus or vote for best play. The contest was between 3 different playwrights. Each had to submit a tetralogy, a 4-part work. The first 3 parts were linked tragedies, and the 4th part was a satyr play, which was lewd and usually involved a lot of prop penises. In 486 BCE, a comedy competition was added. Once competing playwrights were chosen, they were matched with a prominent Athenian citizen who would bankroll the production. Our big spender was called the choragus, and it was his job to assemble the chorus, hire the flute player, and buy the masks or any other set furniture like a bed or a throne. The playwright usually did the jobs that we now associate with director, composer, and set designer. Sometimes they even acted in their own work alongside other performers. There may have been up to 3 actors on stage, and then the chorus. Unfortunately, none of the music from these shows remains, but there are some painted vases that suggest what productions may have looked like. Fun fact, the chorus would sometimes dance. I wonder how hard it is to high kick in a toga. For a look at the theater structure itself, let's go to the thought bubble. The Theater of Dionysus was an outdoor amphitheater built into the Athenian hillside. You can still visit the ruins today. Its first incarnation might not have had seats, but eventually they were added, wood first and then stone. The seated section was known as the theatron, or seeing place. The chorus performed on a flat part called the orchestra, and in the center of the orchestra was the thymele, or altar. At some point, a dressing hut called a skene was also built, so that actors could change masks. With only 2 or 3 actors playing every role, you gotta change masks pretty often. There were several ways on and off stage, known as paradoi, including 2 side entrances so big choruses could march on and off when needed. There was also a place on top of the skene where an actor playing a god could appear and descend in a cart, which was called the God in the Machine, or the Deus Ex Machina. Maybe you're wondering, why might a playwright need a god to descend from the heavens? Well, sometimes you write your way into a situation and you can't write yourself out. So it's pretty helpful to have Zeus or Apollo come on down and make everything right. All of the actors wore masks made of linen with hair attached, so they probably looked pretty frightening, especially the one of Oedipus with blood all around the eyes. Tragic actors also wore robes and platform shoes called cothurni, so just imagine a lot of big, sweeping gestures and trying not to trip. Thanks, Thought Bubble. That thing is no less terrifying from the inside either. So, during the dithyramb contest, after each playwright presented his tetralogy, a group of 10 randomly chosen citizens would select the winner, who was honored with an ivy wreath, sacrificial animals, and a big banquet. The Athenians took this contest very seriously, and if any funny business was suspected, there were lawsuits. Tragedy hit its golden age in 5th century Athens, first with the works of Aeschylus, then Sophocles and Euripides. Because papyrus disintegrates and invading hordes kept burning libraries, we don't have the plays that they wrote. Aeschylus wrote as many as 90 plays, but we have only 7. Sophocles wrote 120, but we have Only 7 of the 92 Euripides wrote, more than 7 at least this time. We have 19. Those 30-odd plays have had a huge impact, though. They're still very widely read. They matter to us now because they provide a template for most contemporary drama. But let's look for a second at how they mattered then. It's a huge deal to have 14,000 of your most prominent citizens hang out on a hillside watching plays when they could be doing their civic duty. But as it turns out, they were doing their civic duty. The leading citizens of Athens decided that it was important to get together and see plays that actively question the values and structures of the state. These plays are exploring what it means to be a part of a family and a nation, and what to do when divided loyalties creates conflict. They can teach you to be a better person and a better citizen by encouraging you to ask, through the dramatic action, what a good person is and what a good citizen does. Tragedy does something else too, at least according to Aristotle. He wrote the Poetics, one of the world's first works of literary criticism. And he had a theory about what made tragedy so important. And his theory was about catharsis, which literally means purgation. Aristotle writes that tragedy, through pity and fear, effects the proper purgation of these emotions. Now, a lot of scholars have spilled a lot of ink trying to explain what this means, so it's unlikely we are going to get to the bottom of it right here and now. But let me quickly offer one interpretation of catharsis. Let's try out the idea that tragedy, by exciting the emotions of pity and fear, becomes an outlet for those emotions. If we believe that pity and fear maybe aren't that helpful in a democracy, then we can argue that it's better to feel these things at a play. Have an emotional catharsis and then just get that stuff out of our systems and go back to being productive members of society. Like, imagine how productive all those people who've seen Les Mis hundreds of times must be. Or people who've seen thousands of episodes of General Hospital, for that matter. Next time, we're going to look more closely at Aristotle's theories and
We can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Victor. Anything you thought was interesting? Anything that surprised you?
Well, something I found interesting is that it's just how many playwrights ended up writing themselves into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
That I just find that hilarious that they had to make a whole rigging system just to do that.
Yeah, well, and it's also fun too, to bring somebody on down. That's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and then I learned about how the term Deus Ex Machina.
Yep, that's exactly where it comes from.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anybody else? I know it's kind of a lot.
I think what you went over for the lesson kind of made it was clearer when you have the video and then the image in front of you. I think that did help.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I like using them together, because he talks about some stuff and when you see it, it does help, and then the thought bubble as we go on, they'll use that to give you sort of a short condensed version of plays so that you can sort of see them in your mind. Cool. Excellent. Okay. So your assignment for today, you're going to have a little bit of homework, is you are going to create a character mask. Now, I want you to actually create a mask for a character, okay? So I had a few people misunderstand this from the previous class, and they just submitted the mask that Black Panther wears or that Batman wears, right? But think about if you were gonna make a mask like in an ancient Greek style for a character so that when they walked on stage, the audience would know important characteristics about that person, right? What would you do? Now, I'm going to give you a link to a blank mask that I found, but you don't have to use this one. If you find one that you like better, you can use a different sort of blank version. I just wanted to give you one to start off with, right? So you can do this very conceptually, put things that are very like important to the character on the mask, or you can do it a little bit more literally, like, you know, for Harry Potter, he'd have to have, you know, he has to have the lightning bolt, right? But you could take like a specific scene, like one where, I don't know, he's like at the dance and you put like blush on the mask, right? You have his glasses, the lightning bolt, etc. So just pick a character, and you can do it from a book, a TV show, a movie, any kind of character. And if you had to make a mask for that character so that audiences could know what they're about, you're going to decorate that mask and submit that mask by midnight tonight. Okay, so it's just a fun, creative assignment. Express yourself creatively. Any questions on the assignment? And we'll look at some of them next time.
Can we like draw it on paper? And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to draw it on paper and take a picture or scan it, you could do that. If you want to do it on your computer, you can do that. I'm totally fine with you doing it pretty much any way you want. I had people submit photos. I had people scan their drawings. I had people just like take the mask. So I'll show you what the mask looks like. So I had people just take this picture and put it in. All I'm looking for, Madeline, is creative expression, right? That's what I'm looking for. So that you're doing it and that you are attempting to creatively express what you think, you know, that a mask of that character would be. I'm not like judging you on your ability to draw, because I can't draw. Right? So that wouldn't be fair. So I'm just looking for your best attempt at, you know, create a mask that embodies the character so that at a glance, I should be able to figure out what is important to that character. So for instance, I had one student in another class do Spencer Reid from Criminal Minds. So she like made a collage of stuff that he deals with throughout the course of the show, and she like put that in places on the mask. So that was one way to do it. I had one person who did oh, I don't know the characters from SpongeBob. I think it's Patrick. Is Patrick the pink one? Okay, so she did a more literal interpretation, right? Where she like made a mask that would make somebody look like Patrick, right? I've watched one episode of SpongeBob. I've never seen any more. It was when I was babysitting a child. So that's your homework. So submit that by midnight tonight. Remember that you need to see if you need to do the makeup quiz and then study your vocab before you take the quiz. It is not due now. The quiz is not. And in fact, I would encourage you to take a couple days to study before you take it again. And then finally, I do have one exit ticket for you that you will submit in Schoology. All right. Also due by midnight tonight. If you could interview one person from ancient Greece, who would you want to speak to? Why? And what would you ask them? And it doesn't have to be one of the playwrights that we talked about. It can be famous people. You could choose to just speak to like a woman from ancient Greece to ask her what her life is like. It can be anything you want. So exit ticket, and I'm going to type this in the chat. Due tonight by midnight. Exit ticket and mask. due before October something. I want to say 2nd. No, 6th. Is the makeup quiz. I would not wait that long to do it though. Yes, Mildred.
Do we have to find like an actual woman, like the whole name, or can we just put like a woman from ancient Greek?
Oh yeah, you don't have to have a name if it's just like you want to talk to a woman or a slave or yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Is this gonna be posted on your Schoology?
It is.
Okay.
It is already posted. So if you look under today's folder, you should see it.
Oh, I meant like the recording of the Zoom.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've been having to I've been having to post it to YouTube and then post the link. But yeah, it will be. Vincent, if you look just right above where you asked, I have due tonight by midnight, exit ticket, and mask. Okay. The last VIP, Euripides, or are you talking about Aristotle? The last playwright is Euripides, and Aristotle was our philosopher.
So we have to physically make the mask?
No, you have to just, I remember I gave a link, right? You can either draw it or you can do it with this link and draw on your computer, but you don't have to like create one.
Or you just have to draw one?
Yep.
Any type of mask?
Well, it needs to be a mask that embodies a character so that audiences know what they stand for or what they find important when they see the mask, right? Right here's the slide. And I want you to create your own, okay? So I don't misunderstand me. I don't want like I said, I had some people who were just like turning in superhero masks, right? That's not your own creation, okay?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Can I draw the mask and upload it, take a picture and upload it on Schoology?
Yes, you may. Yep, absolutely. You don't have to do it on your computer. You can draw it.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Yep, you can draw it or print out the mask and draw on that, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we're not quite at noon. I just want to make sure that we're clear. Mask, exit ticket, due tonight by midnight. Makeup test is due sometime before October 6th. I would not wait that long to do it, but I would give yourself a couple of days to study before you retake it. If anybody wants to know if they need to retake it, send me a private chat. Otherwise, if you are clear and have no questions, you are dismissed. Okay, Tyler, I will check for you first because you asked me earlier.
I have a question. Can you?
Yes.
All right. So the mask, I was lagging. I couldn't hear you. So the mask is due by the end of the day or October 6th?
Yes. No, the mask is due by the end of the day. I put it in the chat too, so you should be able to scroll up and see it.
Send it in there.
What?
Yeah, picture or make one to the link you sent me, and then
you can use the link, or you can use any other mask, blank mask template if you want, or you can draw it. I just wanted to give a template. Okay, so I've got a couple of people who are asking about quizzes. Let me look.
I'm
sorry? Okay.
Just send you the picture through that.
You submit the picture in Schoology, yeah, when you're done.
Okay, and then Madeline. Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions? You too, Madeline. Thank you. No? Okay. All right, it is 12:01, so you are dismissed if you don't have any questions. If you do have a question, let me know now because I don't want to keep you too late. Theory, Barbara. You guys have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Theory.
Okay, so hold on. I have to go to. So there was a makeup assignment for the quiz that we were supposed to do.
Yes, ma'am.
So I remember doing it. Hold on.
You've done the initial quiz. Now there's a makeup or a retest option, and you can do that now.
Okay, so on Power School, is there the exit ticket for lesson 1? It didn't show up on Schoology for me, so that's how I wasn't able to do it. But now that I see it on there, is it time for me? Do I have the access to still do it?
The exit ticket for lesson 1. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can still do it, or you should be able to still do it. If you can't, let me know.
Okay, and then the self-assessment, what is that?
We're gonna, oh shoot, I should have talked about that. I forgot because it's not in my notes. If you look at the rubric, all you have to do is fill that rubric out and assess it. So you're basically thinking about your own activity and saying like, I could do better on this. I think I'm doing well on this part, right? Okay. And I'll talk about that in the next class. It shouldn't take you guys too long to fill it out and submit it. And it's just you sort of thinking about like, I need to do better. We're talking about communication, right? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks. Ms. Martinez, anything I can do for you?